Hello and welcome to the Biology Podcast. Today I'm going to be your host. I'm Coralise Ferris. So today's topic we have the manatees. So these are gentle giants that are fascinating and they are increasing today in the biodiversity of the leaves and in the US and all over the world. So we have known that these manatees are currently also facing threats and today we are going to be discussing about them.
Okay, this project aims to raise awareness about this species, provide an overview of conservation effort in Florida, and Belize, two of the biggest population of manatee today, as well as propose a future solution for the survival of this species. But first, we should know more about the manatee. They belong to the family of aquatic mammal Trichachidae, genus Trichachus. Manatees spend approximately 50% of the day sleeping submerged in water. They surface for air regularly at intervals of less than 20 minutes, even while resting. Manatee are herbivore and eat over 60 different freshwater and saltwater plants, including a variety of aquatic vegetation from both freshwater and saltwater environment, such as seagrass, algae, and water hyacinth. They are impressive marine mammals, measuring up to 4 meters or 30 feet long and weighing as much as 590 kilograms or 1,300 pounds. Their distinctive paddle-like tail help them navigate coastal water. Manatees are generally solitary animals, prefer to live and travel alone rather than in groups. They inhabit shallow, marshy coastal areas and rivers of the Caribbean Sea and the Gulf of Mexico. They are a keystone species in warm water sea. But now, their population is decreasing. So, what do you think is the cause of this, Brianni?
Yes, so the cause of the population decreasing is that most people believe that climate change is the biggest threat to manatees, but the leading cause of death is actually boat strikes. A 25-year study shows that collision with watercraft are now the main driver of manatee deaths. And it makes sense because manatees are slow, they swim near the surface, and they don't really react quickly to danger. Strikes cause deep cuts, broken bones, and internal injuries, often fatal. Even survivors struggle to swim and feed, reducing reproduction and survival rate. Habitat loss is another major threat. Cruise ships, terminals, and waterfront expansions seem like harmless projects, but they directly destroy seagrass beds, which are the main food source for manatees. So, no seagrass means no more food, and it's that simple. Then there is pollution, which keeps adding pressure. Runoff, sewage, and industrial waste degrade seagrass and water quality, while fishing gear and marine debris cause entanglement and diseases. And yes, climate change also plays a role too. Stronger storms damage seagrass, rising seas alter habitats and natural hazards to make recovery harder. So now we'll have Abraham talking about how this affects the population status.
The total number of Indian manatees is at least 30,000 for nowadays, and there's a number of 8,350 manatees in Florida, which increased in the last 33 years because it was around 1,267 manatee. And there's less than 7,000 manatee of antlion manatees, but it's still not enough, which lead us to a question: why we're protecting and why is it important to protect them? What's their ecological importance, Azil?
So this is why manatees are important to the marine ecosystem. Manatees are herbivores, which means they only eat plants. Their diet includes seagrass, algae, and even mangrove reefs. Basically, the plants that float, grow underwater, or sit along the bottom. At first, it might not sound like a big deal, but their feeding habit actually plays a crucial role in keeping the ecosystem balanced. As manatees graze the seagrass, they prevent it from becoming too dense or overgrown. You think of them like a natural lawnmower of the sea. This helps improve water flow and keep open channels that other animals rely on to move and survive. Manatees also contribute to nutrient cycling. As they feed and produce waste, they help move nutrients between the seafloor and the water column. This process supports the growth of plants and other organisms throughout the ecosystem. Another role they play is an indicator species. Scientists can study manatee population to understand the overall health of a coastal environment. If the manatees are thriving, this usually means the ecosystem is in good condition. Finally, their importance is especially clear in Belize, which has the largest population of manatees in the Caribbean. This makes the country a key location for conservation and highlights just how important these animals are to biodiversity. Which leads us to the conservation efforts in Belize. Corliss, can you please take over?
Yes, of course. So here's a quick overview of the conservation efforts in Belize. So Belize is focused on manatees, where it has strengthened its protection for manatees through, for example, laws. We have, for example, the Wildlife Management Act that was established in 2025. The purpose of this was to introduce tougher penalties that supports the national goal of zero extinction throughout the years up to 2030, 235, sorry. Now, on the ground, we have organizations like, for example, the Wild Tracks, which is located in Sardinia, which they operate in the country, not only in the Manatee Rehabilitation Center, but also they also rescue little monkeys, like, for example, the spider monkeys, the howler monkeys, and etc. So they don't only focus just on manatees. As you can see, their conservation efforts have grown for the love of animals here in Belize. We also have here the famous manatee man, also known as Jamal Galvez, who works also in long-term tracking of these manatees. They put trackers in manatees to see what they're doing, how they're doing, where they go, where they feed. So these areas that they track, they're able to protect them and tell them, hey, these are areas that manatees come in. These are manatees that manatees are feeding on. So these areas must be protected. We also have the Fisheries Department, we have the Forest Department, and the CZMAI. Also, here in Belize, we have protection when it comes to areas. We have, for example, places like the Shallow Key Wildlife Sanctuary. We have the Perzal Bay Life Sanctuary. We also have Gales Point, which remains one of the most important habitats for manatees, and with ongoing efforts to develop a manatee rescue center there. And also, we have the Community Baboon Sanctuary. Despite these efforts, we know that the biggest threat to manatees is still boat collision, as we have here in the PowerPoint, like as Ms. Brianni mentioned. We also have habitat loss, we have national fish, and this is where the national fisheries strategies come in place, where they strengthen their laws and they tell them about it and raise awareness about them. These are the conservation efforts in Belize. Now, I'm curious, what are the conservation efforts there in the USA?
So for USA, the manatee cannot survive in cold water as we know it. So like Belize, conservationists in the US work to protect natural springs like Blue Spring and carefully manage warm water discharge from power plants to create vital thermal refuge for these gentle giants. Nutrients pollution has devastated seagrass in the Indian River Lagoon. So the Nature Conservancy run up to resilience project used to automate stormwater control with real-time data to improve water quality and help these vital food source recover for the manatee. Also, the Endangered Species Act and Marine Mammal Protection Act provides federal safeguard. Florida Manatee Sanctuary Act established speed zone and protected areas. These laws create legal framework to prosecute harassment and habitat destruction for the manatee. Educational programs teach responsible wildlife interaction practice. So there's a lot of similar effort between Belize and USA. So Miss Ryu, will you let us know more about it?
Okay, so what I'm adding is more so of a recap because it's a lot of information at once, and it's nice to just slow it down so the information can all sink in. All right, so going over the West Indian manatee as a species is a lot because they have two subspecies, the Antillia manatee and the Florida manatee. So it's interesting to get to take a look at both because we would expect to see differences and behavior, so maybe differences in the way Belize chooses to conserve and protect versus the US. But from what my peers have said, there there's a thin line because they're both being affected by similar things. There's the cold stress, the red tide, but most importantly, boat strikes because even like just a blunt hit can rupture organs and it can like cut through them and especially the propellers. So yeah, as mentioned, and that's unfortunate because as we know, they help graze on the seagrass, and overgrowth can damage the rivers, lagoons, and bays and systems from overpopulation of the seagrass. So looking at the different subspecies is fun because you get to see the difference in conservation between Belize and the U.S. and there's not really that much. We both have sanctuaries and like heating areas for reservoirs. We both push legislations, and we both have a rescue team ready to help with the boating incidents. And I think the rescue is a very intricate process because we actually have an interview from a biologist at the Florida Wildlife Commission who went in on detail on how they perform rescues. And here's our clip.
Just a little bit of background on me, but I work for the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. I'm the research administrator at the Marine Pathobiology Lab in St. Petersburg. I also supervise our staff that respond to manatees around the state. I'm also the state's manatee rescue and capture coordinator. So this was kind of what you're asking about, like what happens when we get a report or how we handle stranding. So we have an 800 number. It's a wildlife alert hotline that citizens can call if they see a distressed or dead manatee. And when they get that information, it goes to, or when they call that number, it puts them in contact with a law enforcement dispatch person. And then they send that out to one of our field station staff to kind of follow up on what the people are seeing. So we take calls basically 24 hours a day. We've got someone that the citizens can talk to. So then when we get to where we're kind of planning a rescue, once we determine a manatee needs to be rescued, then we ask these different questions, try to figure out, what we need for the rescue. Because some, like a little baby manatee may only take 2 people to catch, but a big adult manatee might take a full crew and a capture boat and a bunch of other stuff. So we got to figure out, this is the biggest manatee I've ever caught. It was 2,700 pounds. Wow. So again, a difference between catching a little tiny newborn versus catching this giant, massive, adult female, and the resources needed. You just kind of got to plan for that. But once we catch the manatees, then this is what it kind of looks like during a capture process with the animal in the boat, pulling them down on the boat. We have to restrain them because obviously they're wild animals and sometimes they thrash in the boat. And then we work them we have a specialized box truck that has climate control, and we'll have people ride back there with them, providing them care. And then we're trying to get them to one of these 2 manatee hospitals. So Zoo Tampa in Tampa, and then SeaWorld in Orlando are the 2 places that take manatees in. Now there are other places in Florida that have manatees. In particular, like, just up, you said you're in Georgia. I mean, there are a couple of manatees up right now up in Georgia Aquarium, but those were ones that were rescued in Florida. They were taken to these hospitals. They were kind of stabilized, and then they were moved to a different facility. And that's what Georgia Aquarium would do, or like Clearwater Aquarium, Moat Marine Lab, those sorts of places. And then once they're there, on the rescue side of things, they're brought in for rehab. The different hospitals are treating the animals depending on what their issues are. Some manatees can be treated and kind of turned around within a couple of days or a couple of weeks. Some take months and some take years. But the goal is to get these guys back out as soon, after they're stable, because they are a threatened species under Endangered Species Act. So we see every individual as important to the species to keep it going. This is just an example of what a floor at SeaWorld looks like, during some of the rehab treatments and sort of thing. But there are a lot of manatees in the rehab, do a lot of rescues.
Okay, so how do we protect a species that moves as slowly as manatee in a world that's moving faster every day? It's a complex challenge, but across the coastal water of Belize and the US, a clear roadmap is being followed. Protecting these gentle giants isn't just about saving one animal, it's about preserving the entire health of our rivers, lagoons, and coastlines. It starts with the law. More importantly, enforcing strict speed limit and no wake zones in manatee frequented areas. But a safe zone only works if there's food and shelter. That's why habitat restoration is the heart of the long-term strategy. We are actively working to restore degraded seagrass beds and protect vital mangrove forests. On the human side, management is key. This means regulating boat traffic, implementing mandatory propeller guards, and reducing the use of harmful gillnets. But regulations only go so far without community heart. Through school programs and vocational training for local guidance, we're building a culture of stewardship. Finally, we let science lead the way. Researchers are gaining a deeper understanding of manatees' health and migration patterns. This data allows the ecosystem-based management making decisions based on real-time evidence. Looking ahead, through cross-border cooperation and climate adaptation, we can ensure that manatee don't just survive the coming decades, they thrive. Protecting manatee is a big job, but without coordinated effort and local passion, we are securing a vibrant, healthy future for generations.
So, as we have seen, manatees are not just sea cows. They are gentle giants that play a vital role in keeping our oceans and coastal ecosystems healthy. Their survival is tied directly to balance of seagrass, mangroves, and biodiversity of our own waters. Conservation efforts in Belize and United States shows that progress is possible whether through laws, protected areas, or rehabilitation programs. But protection does not stop with the government and researchers. Every one of us can make a difference, whether it is supporting organizations like Wild Tracks or Save the Manatees Club, spreading awareness, or simply respecting manatee habitats when visiting coastal waters. Our actions matter. Manatees remind us that health of our oceans is connected to our own future. By working together across communities, countries, and generations, we can ensure that these gentle giants not only survive but thrive.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for taking part in today's discussion of manatees. Thank you for our audience for listening to the Biology Podcast. Today, we explored the world of manatees, their challenges, and the efforts being made to protect them. We hope that this episode helped you understand why conservation matters, why manatees matters, and until next time, we stay curious and take care of our oceans and wildlife. Thank you.
Bye bye.